Hey man, welcome back to Man Time. Today's episode, it's trencher day. Let's talk about what it took to get this thing here, what kind of machine it is, and then we'll actually see if we can start using the thing. Welcome to Man Time. Alright man, this episode we're going to go over all the things with this trencher and the rent versus buy option, and then some of the things you might not have thought about when you're thinking about renting equipment. So first thing is actually getting the equipment when you need it. I called several places, and I've got like a couple days off of work here with a longer weekend, and like one place was like, yeah, we might have something back tomorrow. Two other places didn't have one. Finally found one place that had one. It was about $50 more a day. I'm renting it for 2 days, and so I mean, plan ahead. And I guess as much as that means, some of the places just won't hold equipment, and I guess these are kind of in demand. So anyways, plan ahead a little bit. You might be able to get one reserved for a certain date range. Some places do that, some places probably don't. But second thing, have the equipment to get the machine home yourself. One thing you might be overlooking is like chains and binders. Ask the weight of the machine, make sure your trailer is rated for the weight. You know, they're going to ask you all that stuff when you show up there, or otherwise you're going to have it delivered, or then rent a trailer and chains and all that stuff, and have a truck, you know, rated to haul this kind of tonnage. So they won't rent to you if you show up in your, you know, Jeep Cherokee and ask to put a big trencher on the back. They're going to say, well, that Jeep Cherokee's only rated for, you know, 4,000 pounds, and we're trying to put a 6,000 pound machine on there. It's not going to work. So plan ahead with the hauling equipment, I guess, that you have or that you're going to need, and maybe plan that stuff out like years ahead of time. You know, planning to, like I did, cutting the path through the woods, getting a clear shot, doing drainage, doing bridges, and finally able to get the machine to run down through the woods over the path that you've created with the machine. So this one here, it's a all-wheel drive, kind of an off-road type vehicle, which is what I'm going to need because I've got that clay that kind of goes up and down the slope, and we're going to take a look at that. But let's get this thing back there. You've got so much hours that you can put on the machine to get it within the limit that you have. So you want to be efficient with your time, i.e. set up where you're going to start trenching, and that's what we're going to do. Let's get there. Alright, so some other things to take into consideration is in the preparation and planning. You may not know what this thing here is. This is a chain binder, also called like a boomer sometimes. They make a couple different ones. There's a ratcheting type. There's one that you can actually hook a wrench up to, which is pretty nice. This one has this pawl where you flip that pawl and you go from tightening to loosening like that. In addition to the preparation, I guess I should say, you want to have all the prep work done before you bring the machine on site and wanting to start cutting. That makes it a whole lot easier, right? So I've gone through and brush hogged like all along my south fence line where the line is going to run through. I've also checked to make sure there's no underground lines that are already there. Out in the country it's a little bit easier. There was an old water line that was toward the front of the property that may or may not be there. I did some kind of test digs to see if I could find it. I wasn't able to, so when I get up to that spot where I think there might be an old water line, I'll just kind of take it slow from there. But let's get this thing unhooked, and then what else? Oh yeah, the path for the machine. Get that all plotted out and prepped out, and you know, be able to know where you're going once the machine gets there. So we had to do like a two-step loading process on this one, where basically we just have a chain through the back here and then drive forward until it locks that chain down, and then we'll just kind of go in reverse to get it out of here. But let's look at the controls on this machine and see if we can't figure out how to operate this thing. They didn't give me a whole lot of training. So here we are in the driver's seat, and here's our controls over here. And yeah, there's a foot pedal down here. Looks like an e-brake down here. But let's see if we can't figure this out. Basically, turn it on, it primes up, and we are preheated. There we go. Alright, so now we just need to figure out which of these controls does what. I remember this being the front bucket, so let's try this. Yeah. So that lifts the front up. I guess it's the blade. Yeah. And now we'll try to back up, I guess. And I think that's going to be, this one is for forward and reverse, and this one is actually for the turning of the chain. Let's try reverse. Okay, so even in reverse there, when I hit the pedal forward, it went forward. That was a little concerning. It's amazing how they'll just give this machine to anybody without really asking too many questions, huh? What I like to do is get a feel for the machine, get a feel for the controls, basically hit all the levers and figure out which ones are which, so you kind of know what you're doing when you're driving. On this machine, you basically just set the chain down in the back and drive forward. They give you so little details, you know, when you rent the machine. I'm assuming I can only dig in a straight line, so let's try that. Let's try to functionally operate the machine and get a feel for it here. Here's the shield. I don't know why you wouldn't just have this mounted. Alright, I've got the center line of the building marked out right here, where I think it's going to be. I haven't got the final construction drawings for the foundation of it yet, but those are on the way as far as like where to mount up, you know, the main uprights of the building. But this is about halfway, and what I'm planning on doing is running the water line into the center of the building, having a main kind of wet line where my water in and sewage out is all going to be in a trench right down the center of the building. So kind of the plan anyway. Let's try this front blade out and see if we can't get down to where I want to start working. well, that was a interesting first start. It's really hard to judge, like if you're going in a straight line, but lucky enough for me, the machine, let's see, what do we got, a RTX 450? Something like that. The machine was able to kind of, work around my stupidity running it. But here we go, we've got, this looks like, dang, that looks like almost 4 feet. So it's a little hard to judge the depth also. Be nice if there was a gauge or something on there, but all right, 1,500 feet left to go. Wish me luck. Oh man, it sure is nice having the right tool for the job. That Vermeer trencher is just going to work, and so this is a 1,500 foot line. I mean, I've been at it maybe 3 hours, and I'm already 3/4 of the way done. It just makes such quick work of this, and it feels so good standing here with a trench for a water line. If you go back on the channel, my very first video was starting to dig into the woods here and make this path. So it's been years in the making, and weekends after work, putting in a land bridge down there, digging up all the trees, digging up all the stumps, so that when the time came to dig this trench, it wasn't a nightmare. And I've had smooth, clear sailing all the way through here, using that backhoe to dig up all these stumps as I went along. Otherwise, this wouldn't have happened. So keep that in mind when you're working to get a water line on your property through the woods. If you don't dig up those stumps, you're going to be having a heck of a hard time. And at some point, I did put down some rock right in here. The ground was so swampy and mushy. I had to, because I dug a big pine stump out of the bottom here. And it was a little slower going through those rocks than I'd like, but the machine just ate it up. Yeah. Feels good. Almost there. That's going to do it for today on Man Time. Guys, get out there. Have you some man time, too.